70 years after the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau, ageing survivors have gathered at the site for an emotional memorial. One of the world leaders marking the event, French President Francois Hollande, told the crowd that the rise in anti-Semitic attacks in France is unbearable. Mr. Hollande, the German president, and Ukraine's president have been participating in the commemoration, along with a dozen other leaders. And we're crossing live now to the Assistant Treasurer, Josh Frydenberg, who's been attending that commemoration. Josh Frydenberg, thanks for your time. You have a very personal link to Auschwitz. This must have been a very moving commemoration for you to attend.
Well, good morning, Kieran. Look, it was a very moving event for all of the 3,000 people who were assembled in this tent at Birkenau. And they heard three powerful speeches from survivors. And in a nutshell, what was captured by those survivors was that they didn't want their past to be their children's future. They were sending a very strong message to the leaders who were present: beware the rise of anti-Semitism, stamp it out before it's too late.
We have just been seeing images of those in attendance in a long walk in the dark and in the snow along the train line to place a candle at the memorial. You were there on behalf of your nation. As I say, as well, there's a very personal link for you. Your great-grandparents were murdered alongside their three daughters at Auschwitz.
That's right, and I have a great-aunt and a great-uncle who both survived their time in Auschwitz, and my great-aunt still lives in Melbourne, and she has the number from Auschwitz tattooed onto her arm. She's obviously been very reluctant to speak about her time in the concentration camp, but she went on, like so many other survivors, to make a meaningful contribution to their new community. Look, there were so many facets of this ceremony which were memorable. There was a video, Kieran, by Steven Spielberg that was narrated by Meryl Streep. There were a multi-faith prayer that was delivered by both Jewish, Catholic and Orthodox leaders. As you say, there was this walk along the railway line where I joined with Canadian and New Zealand ministerial counterparts to light a candle on behalf of the victims. And it was about a 1 kilometre walk along the line in the dark, in the snow, and you had world leaders like Poroshenko and Hollande and the Dutch Prime Minister and many members of European royalty, all of whom were there to pay their respects to the victims, the more than 1 million victims who died at Auschwitz.
Having been to the Yad Vashem World Holocaust Centre in Jerusalem, the thing that really is so stark was the lack of humanity at these concentration camps. Why is it important for humanity now and the world to remember these atrocities, in your view?
Because the scale of brutality and destruction was just so great. It was unprecedented. When I visited the Auschwitz camp earlier on in the day, and it was the first time I'd ever been to that camp, I was struck by just the orderly processes that the Germans had put in place. It was industrial scale killing, and you saw there the groups of shoes that belonged to the victims, the suitcases from the victims, the glasses of the victims, and of course, just rooms full of human hair that was collected from the victims. We cannot believe that such a cultured and advanced people as the Germans were engaged in such brutality and genocide. And if it can occur 70 years ago, there's no reason why it can't occur again. And that's why I think it's so important that the world comes to pay their respects to the dead, but also to say very loudly, never again.
Well, the French president made that clear, didn't he, in his comments at the commemoration, citing the recent rise in anti-Semitic attacks that we've seen in France and across Europe.
Yes, he did. And in fact, he was sitting just in front of me during the ceremony, and during one of the speeches by the survivors, he made this point that we needed to beware the rise of anti-Semitism. And the President of France was the first to get to his feet, and then others followed to give this person a standing ovation. And I thought it was very, very significant. I also had the chance to speak to President Hollande before the event, and I said to him that in Australia we're all shocked by the events in the killing of the journalists and the cartoonists and the workers at Charlie Hebdo, but also the death at the kosher supermarket. And he made the point that they were very determined to obviously ensure that France was able to come together at this time and to try to make it a safer place.
Assistant Treasurer Josh Frydenberg, on a significant day for you and a moving day for you, we appreciate your time and reflections on the 70th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Kieran.